Our next guest is writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. Great to have you with us again. Now, look, last week I spoke in my editorial about the importance of Charles sticking to his knitting, staying out of the media ahead of the coronation. And this week there's been other commentary about how the coronation is a litmus test for Charles and the future of the monarchy. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the coronation is going to be a national event, an international event, really, because there are 2.3 billion members of the Commonwealth that I'm sure will be tuning in as well. But it's a litmus test in the sense that it's really going to test the King's resolve following all the accusations that Harry and Meghan have made in their various media exposés. But it's also setting the tone for his reign. We know that we don't have the privilege of having King Charles reign for 50, 60 odd years. Clearly, his time will be much shorter. So it's important that he makes an impact now and really sets the tone, not just for his reign, but also for his son, William's, in the future, who's probably going to have a more difficult time considering that his own brother has really leveled a lot of negative accusations at the monarchy.
Yeah, and no doubt there's been, I think, plenty of strategy underpinning all of this. But as you know, there are some things you just can't plan for. How does the royal family manage itself in the case of a coronation crisis?
Well, obviously the don't explain, don't complain mantra has always been a constant with the monarchy, but it's really about showcasing the best of Britain, which is what we've been hearing from Buckingham Palace. At the end of the day, there's so many externalities that you cannot control, like your son releasing a tell-all memoir or your daughter-in-law making accusations of racism at the family. So you really just have to put your best foot forward. There were pictures of Prince William this week in Poland with members of the Kensington staff, just having a meal in a small pub somewhere in Poland, and you just saw how relaxed and how nonchalant he was. But really, it's about not making a fuss, just getting on with the job, and just realizing that at the end of the day, they're still actually regular human beings, even though they are members of the royal family. And so they just have to do their duty to the best of their abilities and just try and live a normal, quiet life. I mean, I think the fact that they try and make not much of a fuss about themselves is what's endearing to the public, because there are Sussexes on the other side of the pond that do everything to make a fuss about themselves. So that's all that they can do in a crisis like this. Just put your best foot forward. I mean, historically, the Queen has had to deal with a lot worse, and she's always handled it with grace. And I do believe that King Charles has learnt a lot from his late mother.
You're absolutely right. No one handled it quite like the Queen. She had all manner of scandal and was totally unflappable. But on to Meghan and Harry. We well and truly know that they have been invited to the coronation. And there's a few people who have been saying that they may not retain the same sort of commercial value if they don't actually attend. So Esther, where do they go to from here and what are the drivers?
Well, I mean, clearly the commercial value is tied to their proximity to the royal family. So that's something that will inevitably come into consideration. The Sussexes would argue that this is actually a family affair, and so that they would like to attend in support of Prince Harry's father, who he still says that he loves and deeply and admires, and all of that. But the reality is, that it would be in their best interest commercially to attend. One of the things that we have to remember is that the Duke of Sussex is still in a legal dispute with the Home Office with regards to his security. So that's something that is playing a major role in this, because if he doesn't feel safe coming to the UK, he and his wife could use that as an excuse to not attend. But the reality is, it's a lot more complicated than it seems on the surface, that the Home Office is being mean and refusing to give Harry the level of security he requires. As a non-active working member of the royal family, the committee in the Home Office that looks to royal security has actually demoted his level of security because, one, he doesn't live in the UK, and two, he's not an active member of the royal family, so he's not entitled to these sorts of benefits. So it does get trickier when he chooses to fly in and out of the UK, how his security will be managed. Obviously, he does utilize private security, but his argument is not as extensive as it as it would be if he was a working royal. But, you know, he's in similar shoes as his mother, Princess Diana, if not worse, because no one has ever left the royal family in the way that he has. You know, the monarch's child just exiting in the fashion that he has. So it really is quite complicated. And now they don't have a residence in the UK because Frogmore Cottage has been taken away from them. King Charles has famously stated that he wants to slim down the monarchy, and he's doing exactly that. So really, their role within the royal family has been slimmed down, but also the logistics around them being in the UK has also changed as well. And so now it's down to them and their own sort of private resources to make do, which is, I suppose, an argument as to why they're basically selling their lives and prostituting their proximity to the royal family to the highest bidder.
Now, look, on to Harry more particularly. You would undoubtedly remember he admitted in his book to taking recreational drugs. Here's him being asked about it.
Fair amount of drugs, marijuana, magic mushrooms, cocaine. I mean, that's going to surprise people.
But important to acknowledge.
And this week it's been reported that Prince Harry may face some difficulty keeping his US visa, given that exact admission. Is that a serious concern, do you think, or do you think that's a bit of a beat up?
Well, I do think that it is a cause for some concern at the very least. You have to remember that Prince Harry is not an American citizen, and even some states that have legalized the use of marijuana, for instance, that's just for American citizens. Federal law with regards to non-citizens is far stricter with regards to drug use and to any sorts of illegal activities that include DUIs. And so all eyes will be on him because obviously with situations that involve such high-profile individuals, you want to at least fairly apply the law because it could be quite scandalous if it's seen that Prince Harry is getting favourable treatment. Look, the reality is the man is not very bright. I'm sure many people would have told him that if you're in a legal dispute with the Home Office regarding your security and think that you face a high level of security, probably putting your Taliban kill count in your book is not helping matters. In the same way, if you know that you are a resident in a country where you are not a citizen and you're trying to apply for permanent stay, or at the very least, telling the world that you have used drugs that are highly legal in many parts of the US, and in the case of cocaine, the entirety of the US is not a good idea. But it just shows how short-sighted the couple are and how they put my truth ahead of logic and reason, and even ahead of the safety of their own family, because there will be repercussions with regards to this. If in the worst case scenario, Harry is denied permanent residence in the US, for instance, he would have no choice but to come to the UK. Now, I don't know many people in the UK that would actually want to see him, but there's also implications for his children with that regard. In the same way, you raise your level of risk if you reveal intimate details about your time in combat. That has repercussions on your children, and most people would have the sense to see that. But unfortunately, the Sussexes seem to have other priorities with regards to that.
But that does make you wonder, doesn't it, how well thought out some of these interviews were and whether they actually in the long term serve as a net benefit or a net negative.
Absolutely. I mean, I've made the point that the people that were around the Sussexes at the time that they've done all this sort of media exposés just saw dollar signs when they saw the couple, and so I don't think they got any sort of really decent counsel. But at the same time, these are grown people. Meghan is in her 40s, Harry is not far off. I don't think it takes a genius to tell you that once you are married and you have a family and you have people that depend on you, it's not a good idea to make yourself a target to the likes of the Taliban or the US immigration system. So there's so many things that come into this, but the reality is this is a short-sighted couple that had clearly other priorities other than the ones that would more concern the average day person, like safety and security and dignity for that matter.
Now, lastly, there's been a great op-ed written this week in Australia about how Charles has won the power struggle against the Sussexes, because it seems that no matter what the Sussexes throw at the family, they come through it in one piece, albeit that they're fairly bruised. Like that's granted. Do you think we've seen the end of Harry and Meghan throwing those barbs, particularly as we get closer to the coronation?
I highly doubt it. The couple seems quite determined to talk about their truth. And, Harry has, his book deal was part of a multi-book deal, so it wasn't just one book that we were promised. And there are murmurings that Meghan is going to release her own content as well, which I'm sure will hark back to her very brief experience within the royal family as an active member of the royal family. The reality is the couple were waging a battle, so to speak, with an institution that they were never going to win against. They were never going to win against the royal family, even if it came out that there were more sensationalist claims, which didn't actually materialize. The reality is the royal family's mantra of don't complain, don't explain actually has helped them. Keeping a dignified silence has helped them, because many people now can see kind of the similarities between having relatives like the Sussexes and having problematic relatives in their own lives. Regardless of what accusations or what feelings they may have had being in the royal family, most people can agree that to reveal such intimate details about family members is grotesque and tacky and classless. And so you actually have people feeling sympathy for members of the royal family. So in many ways, it has actually backfired on them. Their popularity ratings have tanked in the US, for instance. They've actually got lower popularity ratings than Prince Andrew, which is, I actually didn't think was physically possible, but that is a feat to behold. So they were never going to win this battle. They kind of played hard and fast with the truth. They demonized the media that they then tried to utilize to make money. They were always complaining about the British tabloids, but then they were also using the British tabloids to increase their own celebrity. So they were never going to win this. They were never sophisticated enough to do it. Even Princess Diana, who did it in a far more authentic way, she still, at the time of her tragic passing, wasn't actually very, very popular in the country, because again, people thought it was tacky to reveal details, such intimate details of your own life. I mean, that's something that we relegate to reality stars and to really kind of fringe celebrities, not members of a royal family that actually have some sort of social standing.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent observation. Look, Esther, that's all we've got time for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and no doubt we'll be chatting with you again soon. See you later.
Thank you.